to another episode today of Scott Fox After 9. I did post the Silent Date update. This is the conclusion to the latest chapter where Silent Date Guy went to a wedding in Minnesota with Silent Date Girl. If you want to hear the conclusion to this chapter of the story, go back and give that episode a listen. It came out a little bit earlier on. Right now, I'm going to get into the daily episode where I talk about all the top stories of today. Coming up in this episode, I'm going to fit in as much as I can. I want to play a little bit for you of Prime Minister Carney yesterday in New York. Not a great day for the Prime Minister, if I'm being honest. And you'll hear the audio to explain that coming up in this episode. I'm also going to talk about the announcement that President Trump made yesterday because the medical establishment is losing their minds that the president dared to suggest there could be a link between Tylenol during pregnancy and autism. We'll get to that coming up. Try and keep an open mind, though. I will not be defending the president, by the way, just so you know, but I do have a bit of a perspective on this that I think might be helpful for those who are going to have a baby or pregnant right now. It might be something that you want to hear, so stick around for that. I've also got some audio from Premier Doug Ford, and before I get to any of that, I want to address what happened yesterday in question period in Ottawa. The Liberals are going ahead with their gun buyback program. And even though the cost on this thing has just exploded, we were originally told about $200 million for this program. Now they're saying it could be north of $1.5 billion. And I haven't met many people that think that this gun buyback program is going to be effective at dealing with crime in Canada. Well, yesterday, the leader of the opposition, Pierre Poilievre, called out the public safety minister because the public safety minister said the quiet part out loud, and somebody recorded him saying it. You see, the public safety minister does not think that this is going to be effective. He does think it's going to go way over budget, and he thinks at the end of the day, it would probably be more effective to just put criminals in jail. But he also said that the Liberals are going ahead with this program anyway because it's good politics, particularly in Quebec. Well, that is little comfort for the many, many legal and trained and vetted gun owners in Canada that do not like this program. And it's not good for taxpayers who don't want to see a penny more of their tax dollars being wasted. Well, this is the exchange yesterday where Pierre Poilievre called out the public safety minister for what he actually said when he didn't know he was being recorded. Listen to this exchange.
Merci pour la question.
Thank you for the question.
Mr. Speaker, on Sunday I had a conversation with an individual that I've known for many years who recorded it without my knowledge and had it leaked to a gun lobbyist. In that conversation, Mr. Speaker, the subject of the assault-style firearms buyback compensation program was discussed. In trying to address this issue, Mr. Speaker, the individual's frustration, my comments were misguided. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, it's important to have the program in place. This is what Canadians are looking for. And I do want to note that the Leader of the Opposition has voted against every single gun measure.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
By freeing rampant gun criminals and wasting billions of dollars of police and border resources targeting law-abiding, licensed, trained and tested firearms owners, this government has overseen a 130% increase in violent gun crime. But over the weekend, the Minister of Public Safety accidentally told the truth, and he was recorded doing it. He said that the gun grab is not worth the money, that it will go over budget, and it would be better just to lock up the criminals, but that they're going ahead with the bad policy because it's good politics. Does the Prime Minister agree?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, it's a good thing there's a recording of it so that Canadians can have a look for themselves. Let me be very clear, Mr. Speaker. Canadians want responsible gun control. They wanted it in 1989 after a man killed 14 women at École Polytechnique. They wanted it after 6 people were murdered at the Quebec City mosque shooting. And they wanted it after the biggest mass shooting in our history, where a man opened fire and killed 22 people in Nova Scotia. Mr. Speaker, why are the Conservatives against keeping guns off our streets?
Well, I mean, what the public safety minister did there was pretty well deplorable. He said when he didn't think anyone was listening that this is a bad idea. This is a Liberal cabinet minister saying it's a bad idea, it's going to go over budget, and it's misguided. He does not agree with the policy. But he's got to say the talking points when he's in the House of Commons and when he wants to keep his job. Frankly, I'm surprised that Mark Carney hasn't turfed this guy already, because there's a lot of controversy following him to begin with. And now this, he gets recorded admitting that the gun buyback program is ridiculous. Then in the House of Commons, he completely pivots. Yeah, I said that, but what I really want to say is Canadians want gun control. I just want to point out, and I am a firearms owner, so there's me declaring my bias. That's something that you will never hear the mainstream media do. They never declare their bias, but I will. I'm a firearms owner. I'm in favor of legal, trained gun owners having firearms. I don't think that this is a problem. And frankly, I hear from people every day that would like to go and get one, namely because they're worried about their safety and security at home. Now, that's not why we have guns in our homes in Canada. Traditionally, it's for sport shooting or hunting or something like that. I took the Canadian firearms safety course. After I did that, I had to apply for a license to have a firearm. I had to be interviewed and vetted by the RCMP and by my local police force before I was allowed to buy a rifle or a shotgun, or any of the other guns that you're legally allowed to own in Canada, providing you've passed the background checks. What we have in Canada is already 100 times stronger, in my estimation, than what they've got in America. We don't have a legal, lawful gun owner problem in Canada. They do in America, but they keep pointing to America to make Canadians think that there's a problem here. In reality, I think every Canadian can see very plainly where the problem lies. There are too many gangbangers out there that have managed to secure themselves a firearm, and those ones are not going to get sold back to the police. Those ones are not going to get turned in. You're basically taking the guns away from legal gun owners, and you are not doing anything about the problem, which is illegal guns that are out on the streets. Just a little bit more from Pierre Poilievre.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the minister said that his gun grab won't work, that it will go over budget, and that it would be better to lock up criminals, as Conservatives have been suggesting, but that they're going ahead with the gun grab anyway because the Prime Minister wants to pursue electoral politics. Electoral politics, Mr. Speaker. When a mother is hit with a stray bullet, or a police officer is murdered by a firearm, or a bullet flies into a child's bedroom as part of an extortion case, we don't have time for politics. So why is this minister caught on tape playing politics with guns?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, in order to have a real conversation about crime, we need to have a real conversation about guns. Canadians want responsible gun control, Mr. Speaker.
I'm going to cut this guy off. I don't think he's going to be in that position for very long. He said exactly what he thinks when he thought nobody was listening. Well, that conversation was recorded. It got leaked to the gun lobbyists, and here we are. We all now know that he is not in favor of the gun buyback program, but he's going to go ahead and execute anyway, because that's what Prime Minister Carney told him to do. And before him, it was Justin Trudeau saying it. I don't know where we go from here, but hopefully at this point, now that everybody has heard both sides of this, we can all agree the problem is illegal guns on the street, not me that has a hunting rifle, not your next door neighbor who's got a shotgun so that he can do trap shooting. That's not the problem. It's the handguns and the illegally modified guns that are all over the streets and frankly falling every day more and more into the hands of young people. Let's move on. Keep going. Rapid fire here today. Yesterday, Premier Doug Ford from Ontario out doing a news conference, and a couple of things came up, including crime and safety. Listen to the Premier talking about crime and our homelessness problem.
Last week, Mayor of Ottawa, Mark Sutcliffe, he announced that his goal is to end youth homelessness by 2030. I know that you visit Campman this weekend in Barrie, Ontario, so I just want to have your thought about that.
Well, we're investing billions of dollars in homeless support right across our great province. I did visit one in Barrie, and it was terrible, absolutely terrible. You know, they went in and raided one place and found $9,000 cash in a tent. Why he's homeless with $9,000 cash, and it's through drugs. Massive amounts of weapons and massive amounts of ammunition. And these are places where people used to walk their kids in parks, and it doesn't matter where you are in Ontario. Why does less than 1% of the people take over a park for 99% of the population that uses it? It's unacceptable. We're going to move them on. We're going to get them proper housing and shelter. But it's not going to happen. We're going to work as hard as we can. When I say it's not going to happen, I'm tired of these encampments taking over communities. People are terrified to walk down the street because they get harassed for money for drugs. And up in Barrie, you know, E. coli, they're by a creek. They're you know, feces and go in the washroom, and the E. coli is going through the roof. And this is the water people drink. So enough is enough. You know, I'm done with all this. It never happened. You know, like 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, we didn't have these problems. We didn't have the crime that we were facing. I'm done with the crime. The federal government has to get their butt moving on bail reform, Young Offenders Act, mandatory sentencing. I can tell you one thing. It's always the economy and healthcare. When we do our polling, crime is right beside it now. People are done with it. So we're going to clean that up. But the federal government has to change the criminal code. They have to stop dragging their feet and start moving on this. We want our communities back. We want our towns back and our cities back. And I'm not going to let less than 1% of the people hijack the whole system. I'm done with it.
Thank you.
Okay, strong words there from Premier Ford, pointing out the obvious, what we all know and what we've been living for years. There are a lot of encampments of homeless people popping up in various places across Ontario. It sounds like the Premier is ready to go in. He says he is fed up and he has had enough. And by the way, I did not know that they were finding tents with thousands of dollars of cash in it. I did not know that they were finding weapons and large amounts of ammunition in some of these encampments. That's scary stuff. It really is. But what do we do from here? Because one thing I don't want to do is demonize the people who, through no fault of their own, have ended up unhoused or homeless. I don't want to... No, I do want to be gentle with them. There are a lot of people who, again, through no fault of their own, they didn't create the immigration crisis. They didn't create the jobs crisis. They didn't create the economic crisis. They didn't create any of it. That all came from government. They just got caught up in it. And maybe they lost their home. Maybe they are estranged from their family now. Maybe drugs got in the way because the circumstances that they were dealing with were just too much to deal with, and they turned to a substance. I don't want to forget those people, and I think we need to be compassionate. So while Doug Ford did not say what he's going to do there, I would just hope that, yes, he is going to stay on top of his buddy Mark Carney and demand that we get changes made to our criminal justice system. The Liberals had a chance to do it just yesterday. And again, they walked away from that opportunity. In fact, let me play that for you right now. Yesterday in the House of Commons, the Liberals voted against a Conservative motion that would keep repeat violent offenders behind bars. Can everybody agree that if you're a repeat violent offender, you have to stay behind bars until the court determines your guilt or innocence in the matter that you are charged for now? This should be a no-brainer. I think we should all agree on this. But no, the Liberals don't want to vote for an idea that came from the Conservatives. This is yesterday, just yesterday, in the House of Commons.
All those opposed to the motion will please rise.
McKinnon-Gatineau.
Mr. McKinnon-Gatineau.
Mr. Ali.
Mr. Ali.
Madame Diab.
Madame Diab.
Mr. McDonald-Malpeck.
Mr. McDonald-Malpeck.
Mr. Robertson.
Mr. Robertson.
Mr. Hodgson.
Mr. Hodgson.
Mr. Housefather.
Mr. House. Ms. Jancic.
Ms. Scrow.
Ms. Scrow.
I gave you a shortened version. That was the Liberal caucus standing up and saying, no, they will not support a conservative motion to keep repeat violent criminals behind bars. So don't wonder why we're in this situation. The government has had numerous opportunities to introduce reforms to our criminal justice system. And what did they decide to do as their priority when it comes to justice? They decided they wanted to go after hate crimes and create a law that would put people in jail for life for various hate crimes. For life. That's crazy to me. It's going to get talked about more, though, in the pod as the days go on. So stick around, stay tuned, hit subscribe, and you will get future episodes of Scott Fox After 9 as they drop. Just back to the homelessness issue, I really just hope that we are compassionate. I understand that we can't have these homeless encampments taking over our parks and public spaces. I don't know if it is really only 1% of the population that is unhoused, but it seems to be a heck of a lot of people. And while no, I don't want them in the parks and at City Hall and places like that, we have to make sure that we do this right and we are compassionate and get people the help they need. The Premier was also asked a question yesterday about a topic that is near and dear to my heart and the hearts of many who message me every single day. He was talking about what we're going to do about these speed enforcement cameras.
It's not just Toronto that has had photo radar cameras that have been vandalized. It happened in Ottawa just this past weekend. Despite what police chiefs say about how they're working, you're looking to scrap these. You've hinted at changes coming. Can you share any specific details about what specific action you're going to take when it comes to photo radar cameras?
Yeah, first of all, I do not condone any vandalism of any kind. That should never, ever happen. But it just shows you how frustrated people are. And I'll use the stats just in Toronto because I know them. 32,000 tickets for going 2 kilometers over, 4 kilometers over, sometimes 10, 15 kilometers over in 3 months, by the way. So all municipalities are collecting hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't believe that slows it down. So when you live in a community, you find out there's a speed trap, you learn, you slow down. But there's thousands of other people going through the community that aren't slowing down and getting dinged. And if really the strategy is to slow people down, we're going to be giving municipalities across the province a lot of money to put in all sorts of street calming methods, from the little turnabouts, from speed bumps to flashing signs. And that's going to slow people down. The speed traps do not slow people down. They may slow them within the community, but there's so many other people coming throughout the community. So if our goal is to slow people down, which I think is very important by school zones, we're going to give them the money to put the infrastructure in place that will slow people down. I did this for 4 years at the City of Toronto. I could bring people to a halt, a stop, bring them under the speed limit. We can come up with all sorts of different strategies rather than dinging the people with fines. These people are working their backs off. And when they're going through, they get a 3 kilometer, 4 kilometer ticket. People can't afford this. And the other thing is, when you get a ticket, usually you can go to court and fight the ticket. In this scenario, you can't fight the tickets. You just have to pay it, which is unfortunate. Anyways, there's going to be a few mayors joining me. I've had many mayors tell me, we know this is a tax grab. This is what they told me. But I need money for roads and so on and so forth. You can't use people's pocketbooks. We're getting gouged with taxes all over the place. They're facing tough times. The goal is to slow them down. We're going to slow them down. I guarantee you that.
Touching again on your visit in Barrie with the encampment.
Well said by Premier Ford. Hey, listen, it's nice to know we have at least an advocate. Premier Ford does not want these speed enforcement cameras, but he's walking a fine line because he likes to say he's got a good relationship with the mayors. I am very, very excited to see Premier Ford drag in a group of common sense mayors that are actually interested in listening to their people. I'll be taking names when those mayors show up with Premier Ford, and I will happily support those mayors who do not support these speed enforcement cameras. cameras. Now, what about these mayors that do? Well, here's what we know about them. They are drunk on spending. They cannot control their spending whatsoever. They have no idea how to stick to a budget. And they know that going into an election year, a huge property tax increase this spring is not going to be popular. So they're trying to suck as much money out of people's pockets right now using these speed enforcement cameras to try and cover up for the fact that they're bad at math and they don't know how to budget. I've got an open invitation out to any of you mayors that think it's a good idea to have these speed enforcement cameras. If you're convinced that it's for public safety, come debate me. The invite is there. My door is open. I will give you a platform that has got a lot of listeners to defend your priority here in these cameras. You can say whatever you want. But then you're going to sit and listen to me tell you what's wrong with these cameras and why it's wrong to go ahead and do something that your citizens don't even want. Premier Ford is absolutely right. There are many, many different ways to slow down traffic. We also know that these mayors are not interested in a compromise. I think by and large, as someone who always strives to find a compromise, we could find one here. You know, if these mayors wanted to be reasonable and sit down and agree, these are only going to go in community safety zones, school zones, and they're going to be set to not ticket anybody who's going less than 10 kilometers an hour over the limit. Well, there's a real common sense change that we could debate. We could talk about that. But the mayors don't want to compromise. They're bringing in so much money, they don't want to kill the golden goose because this is giving them money that they didn't even have to tax you directly for. It's wrong. These cameras are not about public safety. And by the way, if any mayor does have the thought that maybe I will go in and I'll talk to Scott, I've got studios, by the way, in Toronto, Burlington, and Brantford. I'll meet you at any one of the three and we'll have this debate. If you think you're going to come in here with that stupid study from Sick Kids or those preposterous numbers from CAA that say like 65% of the population supports cameras, I will debunk it in minutes. You can leave that at home because that is not going to help you in the argument. Let's have a debate, politician to middle class taxpayer, and let's figure it out where we can compromise. And if we can't compromise, then let's just make it up or down, yes or no. And we'll let the public decide whether or not these cameras should be allowed. The invite's open. Slide into my DMs. Some of you have got my cell. Go ahead and call me. I want you to come on and explain to every one of my listeners why you think it's good that we have these speed enforcement cameras and how you can prove, and I mean actually prove, that they improve safety in the community. I don't even think most of them can justify where they've put the cameras. You know, Toronto is a totally different animal. They've got their own set of problems. They have got a whole strategy called Vision Zero to try and reduce the number of pedestrian fatalities. The vast majority of other cities do not have a problem with pedestrian fatalities. They just don't. And where they put these cameras, there's not been any issues. So it's time to come in here, mayors. If you believe in it that much, somebody get in here and debate me, and let's let the audience decide. Great words there from Premier Ford, and I look forward to his next news conference when he introduces us to the mayors that say they have had enough. Now let's go to something that's been happening in New York over the last couple of days. It's the UN General Assembly, and our Prime Minister, Mark Carney, is there. He's doing a lot of speeches and holding a lot of meetings, and frankly, I'm not entirely sure why. I've got a couple of clips here from the Prime Minister in New York. I want to play these so you can get an idea of what Mr. Carney is up to.
In my experience with China, they are, amongst other things, very sincere and engaged on climate. This is a country run by engineers. This is a country that understands a lot of the engineering solutions to issues around emission. They've happened to have built real competitive advantage in a number of these areas as well. So there's a question of how, and there's almost a standing offer from them about how to engage in the global comments in and around climate.
Well, there's Prime Minister Carney praising China for their environmental prowess. That's our Prime Minister, who is in favor, by the way, of carbon taxes and all of those other over-the-top green initiatives. He wants to impose those on Canadians, just like Justin Trudeau did when he almost bankrupted the entire middle class. In fact, he was successful in some specific cases. There's a lot of people who lost a lot of money with Justin Trudeau in charge. And I think a lot of people saw Mark Carney come in and they'd heard that he's a crazy environmentalist and his wife is very into green initiatives too. But so far, he hasn't really shown much in that way. They say because he got rid of the consumer portion of the carbon tax, he must have dropped his green ideology. He hasn't. He never will. And there he is praising China. You know, I've made the case several times, no matter how you feel about climate change and Canada's contribution to it, you have to agree that unless the rest of the world, the big polluters in China, America, India, and the list goes on, unless they get their environmental issues under control, it doesn't really matter what we do. We were bankrupting ourselves and not really making any impact. Well, there's Prime Minister Carney saying China's doing a good job. And frankly, that is a hard circle to square. Now let's get to another comment here. This is the Prime Minister also talking about green initiatives.
We are an energy superpower. That is going to become increasingly evident. 85% of our energy is clean. We're one of the world's largest LNG exporters, one of the largest reserves of oil and gas. We measure additions to our grid in 10 gigawatt chunks. To put it in perspective, and you will see that with time. We are top 5 in 10 of the world's most important critical minerals. 40% of the world's listed mining companies are in Canada, to give a perspective there. We are a leading developer of AI, and our research universities are some of the biggest producers in volume of AI computing and quantum talent in the world. Unfortunately, most of them go to the United States. I understand you're changing your visa policy here, so you're going to hang on to a few of those.
Wow. Where do you start with that? Well, first off, the Prime Minister has already said, he did it right at the beginning of that clip, 85% of Canadian energy is clean. 85%. Can I just say it? We've done our part then. We really don't need to keep taxing people to change the weather in Canada. We've done our part. 85% of Canadian energy is clean. Now, he called us an energy superpower, and that's a little questionable because so far there's no evidence that we're a superpower. We've got a lot of reserves of oil and liquid natural gas, but so far no way to get it out to market, and we've got a lot of laws that would prohibit that anyway. He also talked about what's called the brain drain. There are so many Canadian young people in particular that get educated and then they go and work for big companies in America because there's not a lot of opportunity happening here. He was joking about the Americans making a change to their H-1B visa program. That allows you to bring in basically foreign workers. And the U.S. is going to start charging $100,000 per visa. That'll probably make them some big money, and there's some big companies that will no problem pay that to be able to get some of these foreign workers. Some of them will be Canadian. But there's also going to be some people that are in the U.S. working on an H-1B visa, and the company does not want to pay $100,000 for that visa, so they're going to leave. Some of them may want to come to Canada. And under normal circumstances, we would probably welcome them. However, at the moment, I don't know that we have any jobs for them, and I don't think we have any places for them to live either. So I'm not sure if we're going to be able to take advantage of a reverse brain drain. The Prime Minister joked about how many Canadians are going to the States to work, hoping that those changes that President Trump made are going to keep some talented Canadians here. I don't know if it's going to happen. I mean, it seems like the grass is greener down there, and whatever it takes, people are trying to get down there because there is a lack of opportunity and a lack of jobs and extremely high taxes here in Canada. And that's just a fact. I don't know why Prime Minister Carney was joking about that. We got a real problem.
And candidly, we've been done a favor because we should have been all of these things we could have done before ourselves. So we needed the rupture, we needed the shock, it seems, in order to do them. But there is a very strong consensus in the country to do that. As well, there is a very attractive for the United States, for Canada obviously as well, and Mexico version of USMCA that can be developed.
There's Prime Minister Carney basically thanking President Trump for bringing in the tariffs, saying we needed an excuse to do this. I don't disagree with him there. We did need an excuse to do this. The problem is he hasn't actually done anything yet. Has anyone noticed that? Nothing has actually been done so far. We opened an office and we forwarded an email to say what could be done, but nothing is actually done. And he's talking like we've just gone through some great change here in Canada. In reality, nothing is all that different, except people are even more broke than they were.
One thing I'd impress upon the audience is that Canadians understand the need to, as we put it, to be masters in our own house. The country does not want to wake up and look on, all due respect, on Truth Social or X to see what the latest change is in U.S. policy, but wants to get on with what we can control. And that's a big part of the government strategy. So getting rid of barriers east-west, as you put it, barriers across the provinces, that alone, if it's fully done, we've done the federal part, but if all our provinces reduce their barriers, the estimates are that is a bigger return to the Canadian economy than the worst-case trade outcome with the U.S. Now,
I'll just say it, and I've been saying it since I think it was March or April. We can get a deal done with the Americans. We've just got to stop trying to avoid doing a deal. And it still seems like the federal government doesn't want a deal. We know that Carney wants to make deals with Europe. He wants to snub the Americans, or he doesn't think that he can get a deal from the Americans. When are we going to try something different? Because the deal that we could make would be incredible for everybody, for the Americans and for us. Why aren't we talking about the Amcan Fortress is what Doug Ford used to call it. Hey, listen, you guys have got the ambition, you've got the money, and you've got the workforce. We've got the minerals and the resources. Let's work together and basically make this a joint initiative, world superpower when it comes to energy, when it comes to creating prosperity for the middle class, when it comes to freedom and flexibility. If we had a deal with the Americans, hey, no more having to worry about paying $100,000 to get your H-1B visa. You'd be able to cross and work in both places because we would need people working in both places. Our skilled people working there, their skilled people working here. A full integration is what we could be looking at with the Americans. But it doesn't seem like there's any desire whatsoever from Ottawa to get something like that done. And frankly, I don't understand why. That's the most obvious deal. Geographically, it makes sense. They are our longest running friends, and they've obviously been our neighbors since day one. Why don't we find a way to work with them? They didn't like the trade imbalance. We didn't really do much to fix it. And right now we're not backing down on a lot of the things that really ticked the Americans off, like supply management and so on. So now we're being tariffed by America. We're being tariffed by China. We apparently are trying to make ourselves our own best customer, but we're broke and we want to form an alliance with Europe. But I don't know if Europe wants us. I think Europe wants our oil and our LNG, but that's about it. It doesn't even make sense to align closer with Europe right now because they're so far away and we have no way to get them our products. You know what I mean? We've got to get back to trying to find a real good deal with the Americans. Renegotiating the USMCA, that's going to be a great place to start. I think that that's where we got to start. Before I get to President Trump, I want to play something else for you that is many, many, many years old. It was on a television show that used to air on CNN called Larry King Live. And the guests were Jenny McCarthy and Jim Carrey. And on this show, they said something radical that basically got Jenny McCarthy canceled and almost ended the career of Jim Carrey as well. This is about a minute and a half long. Listen to this before I play President Trump.
I don't know what happened in 1990. There was no plague that was killing children, that we had to triple the amount of vaccines.
What happened after
smart.
1989?
The
Why did they
schedule
warranted 26 more vaccines?
Greed.
Are all of them absolutely necessary?
Because they want to make money.
Of course.
It's twice as many as anywhere else in 30 countries in the Western world. But we give twice as many shots as any of those countries. Why is that?
Well, what are you against? Don't vaccinate for this, but vaccinate for that?
Yes.
I think we have to choose which ones are absolutely necessary.
You should educate yourself. We want to empower parents to educate themselves. Do we need to have the chickenpox? Do we need the hepatitis B shot on the second day of life?
I don't think we can afford to assume that the people who are charged with our public health any longer have our best interest at heart all the time. Parents have to make their own decisions, educated decisions. They have to look at the information.
Space out the vaccines, delay them till after 1, clean out the toxins that are in them. We don't need that many.
Why would a doctor not want to know more about something that could save a life or prevent a disease? I don't understand.
The AAP is financed by the drug companies. Medical schools are financed by the drug companies. This is a huge business. Vaccines are the largest growing division of the pharmaceutical industry. $13 billion.
They control
profit.
medical schools.
What we're asking is for them to take a loss for the good of our children. That's a tough sell in a boardroom.
Do you remember that? That basically got Jenny McCarthy canceled, and Jim Carrey was right on the line. They were saying that basically those charged with keeping us healthy don't necessarily always have our health in mind, because there's a lot of money to be made if they can get you to get vaccinated for this, get vaccinated for that. They also pointed out that prior to, it was either 89 or 90, there was a limited number of vaccines that kids were given. That number shot up tenfold after 1990, I believe it was. You're welcome to go back and check that if you'd like to. Why was that? Is it because it was big business, or because they determined that on the first day of life, a kid needs a hepatitis B vaccine? I'm not going to make a judgment on vaccines. I'm not. But when we found out the U.S. administration was looking into the causes of autism, I asked you, please, let's hear them out. Let's give them a chance to try and do the work. And if for no other reason, but for years, the world's medical elite have come up with zero answers for what's causing this massive influx of cases of autism. No answers whatsoever. All they can actually say is, we don't know what's causing it, but it's definitely not vaccines. I don't know how they can say that if they haven't found another common link. So the White House asked the Health and Human Services Department, look into what is causing so many cases of autism. Yesterday, the president came out to announce some of their partial findings. And it's controversial already. Listen to this.
The meteoric rise in autism is among the most alarming public health developments in history. There's never been anything like this. Just a few decades ago, 1 in 10,000 children had autism. So that's not a long time. And I've always heard, they say a few, but I think it's a lot less time than that. It used to be 1 in 20,000, then 1 in 10,000, and I would say that's probably 18 years ago. And now it's 1 in 31, but in some areas it's much worse than that, if you can believe it, 1 in 31. And I gave numbers yesterday. For boys, it's 1 in 12. I was told that's in California, where they have for some reason, a more severe problem. But whether it's 1 in 12 or 1 in 31, can you imagine? That's down from 1 in 20,000, then 1 in 10,000. And now we're at the level of 1 in 12 in some cases for boys. 1 in 31 overall. So since 2000, autism rates have surged by much more than 400%. Instead of attacking those who ask questions, everyone should be grateful for those who are trying to get the answers to this complex situation. And the first day all of these great doctors behind me were there, I told them, this is what we have to find out. Because when you go from 20,000 to 10,000 and then you go to 12, there's something artificial. They're taking something. And by the way, I think I can say that there are certain groups of people that don't take vaccines and don't take any pills that have no autism. Does that tell you something? That's currently, is that a correct statement, by the way?
There are some studies that suggest that, yeah, with the Amish, for example.
The Amish, yeah, virtually. I heard none. See, Bobby wants to be very careful with what he says, and he should, but I'm not so careful with what I say. But you have certain groups. The Amish, as an example, they have essentially no autism. First, effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Is that okay? Which is basically commonly known as Tylenol during pregnancy, can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good.
It's a goddamn disgrace is what it is. You know, with something this serious, something that affects so many families, for Trump to come out here and not even be able to pronounce acetaminophen, for him to throw out these veiled numbers like, well, there's some groups who don't take any pills. Who are they? The Amish. Yes. And that part, I think, is for the most part not inaccurate, but it certainly should not be presented in that way. The government says they've done the work and they've found a link. And the medical establishment is all over this. And I don't know if they're all over it because they don't like the science that was done to find this link, or if they're just mortified at that presentation from the White House yesterday, because I am. That's embarrassing. They should have had the top doctors out there explaining their findings. And you know what? In the past, just so you know, what the White House has suggested here, a link between autism and Tylenol or acetaminophen during pregnancy, this is not just some pie-in-the-sky theory. They've been testing this for a long time. And by the way, the results of their tests were inconclusive. They're not saying there's no link between Tylenol or acetaminophen in pregnancy. They're saying the results were inconclusive. They stopped short of saying what the president said yesterday. So listen, as bad as that announcement was, it does seem like there's something here. Is that the magic wand that we can wave and say, okay, if you take the Tylenol away from pregnant women, we won't have any more autistic kids? No, that's not it. That's not what they're saying. They're saying that physicians, in consultation with the patients, should limit use of acetaminophen. That's all that needed to be said. And by the way, nobody is saying that pregnant women can't or shouldn't take Tylenol. Nobody's saying that. It's a recommendation. It's also recommended you do a lot of things. And you know what? I'm sure people cherry pick the ones they do and don't want to adhere to. It's a recommendation. They're not prohibiting it. And that announcement yesterday, that rollout, took away all credibility from the science behind the work that they were doing. There were people that worked very hard on this. They looked at a lot of numbers. They did find something there. That's something worth studying a little bit more. That's all yesterday's announcement was supposed to be. But the way that came out was a convoluted mess. And frankly, parents have more questions than answers now. It's a recommendation that was very, very sloppily rolled out. Donald Trump doesn't need to make every announcement from the White House. Can I just say that? Can we get somebody who understands and has credibility? And right now the president does with half the country, but none with the other half. Can we get somebody with credibility to come out here for big announcements like that and treat them with the seriousness that they deserve? Nobody's saying you can't take Tylenol. Nobody's saying if you did take Tylenol and your kid's autistic, that's the reason. They're just saying they've discovered a link, enough of a link that it's worth studying more. It's not a smoking gun. It's not the only cause. It's not necessarily the root cause. It's a link. I'm glad to see this work being done because I think there's a lot of people out there that want answers on this particular topic. But the way that was rolled out yesterday, that was borderline disgraceful. Just a total mockery of the hard work that's been done for families that want answers. Friends, I got to leave it at that for today. Don't forget, there is another episode out. It is the part 2 of the Silent Date update. Give that a listen. And if you want to weigh in on anything you heard in the pod today, Listener DMs is coming up on Friday. You can hit me up at Scott Fox On Air. Have a great day, and I will leave you once again with the sounds of Pat James and The Whole Truth. Hey now.